Seems Lady Susan will finally visit.
Lady Susan Vernon.
That woman's a fiend.
Congratulations on being about to receive the most accomplished flirt in all England.
Excuse me for arriving this way. What a delightful family pose. Mrs. Cross has come with me as my companion to pack and unpack. And as there's a friendship involved, I'm sure the paying of wages would be offensive to us both. My brother-in-law is very rich. In one's plight, they say, is one's opportunity. Sir James Martin, vastly rich, rather simple.
How jolly. Tiny green balls. What are they called?
Peas.
If my daughter were not the greatest simpleton on earth, she'd be engaged to him now.
But, Mama, I can see Sir James is a kind man, but marriage is for one's whole life.
Not in my experience.
May I present Lady Susan?
Delighted to make your acquaintance.
He's handsome, isn't he?
In a calf-like way.
Mannering's in town.
Have you seen my husband?
Horrid woman. Deranged. But if she were going to be jealous, she should not have married such a charming man.
Does this woman always get her way?
She has an uncanny understanding of men's natures.
I can't help fear that Lady Susan Vernon would destroy every comfort of our lives.
With pleasure. How ungentlemanly.
I'm enjoying Sir James's visit to Churchill.
Churchill. That's how you say it. All together like that. I'd heard church and hill, but couldn't find either. All I could see was this big house.
You promised that you would give up all contact with this woman.
What a mistake you made marrying him. Too old to be governable, too young to die.
Lady Susan?
How dare you address me, sir? Be gone, or I will have you whipped.
Outrageous. Have you never met him?
No, I know him well. I would never speak to a stranger like that.
Good afternoon, everyone, and hi, Kate. Hi, Whit. Thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations on the film. It is terrific. It is really terrific. It is so wonderfully sly. Now, the book was written in the early 1800s, and then it was published 50 years after Jane Austen's death. Some said it was kind of because it was too malicious or a little kind of wickedly sly. That sounds to me like something that would appeal to you, Whit. Is that one of the things you liked about it?
Actually, no.
Oh.
I tried to up the morality, up the religion. Kate told me I couldn't talk about religion here, but I am. So we tried to sort of humanize all the characters and soften a little bit. I mean, it is a little mean and cruel, the original, and we try to keep the funny without all the mean.
Mm-hmm. Now, you kind of did a re-novelization of it in some ways, right? You kind of wrote it as a novel before you actually wrote it as a screenplay, right?
I sort of reversed that. So crazily on Twitter, I said that I was thinking of a novel idea, because my agent said there's no way you can get a contract these days without writing the whole manuscript, and I didn't want to do that. And I got a reply from an assistant in a publishing house who said, yeah, let us know about your idea. So I had this contract to do the novel before I had Kate Beckinsale to do the film. And then finally, Kate was available to do the film. The film went ahead, and I blew all my novel deadlines. And I didn't do the novel until after we finished the film, which was good, because many of the funny things that came up in the shoot, I could put in the novel.
Well, getting Kate Beckinsale for this film was absolutely so perfect. Kate, it must have been such a treat to play Lady Susan. She sort of can get away with anything. She sort of says what's on her mind, and people kind of let her go. Was it a lot of fun to play this role?
It was a lot of fun. She talks a lot.
Yeah.
So it was quite a lot of work, because we had a very short schedule. And it's quite a modest budget movie, so we had 27 days or something to do that. So, but yeah, it was lovely. She's very charming with it, though. So I suppose the thing that I was hoping was to kind of get to a point where she isn't just the most unpleasant person in the world, you know. And actually, as Whit said, in the novel, she's a little bit more extreme. And I was always lobbying to put those bits back in, but I think you were right.
It's strange because in a way she becomes more likable than some of Jane Austen's virtuous heroines like Emma. So Emma's intending to be virtuous, but making a mess of things. Yeah. And Kate, as we know, also played Emma in a beautiful miniseries. And we're really sort of gratified that the fact that the Kate character and the Chloe Sevigny character are likable enough in the film despite all their scoundrel behavior. And it reminds me a little bit of the film Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, where they're doing one crazy thing after another, but we end up really enjoying them.
Yeah, No, you can't help but love them. That's right. Kate, which just mentioned Emma in 1996, the performance that you did for the BBC. How did your relationship change to sort of Austen's heroines with this film? Did you sort of approach Jane Austen differently in this one?
I mean, to be honest, I did fairly similar, background research and all that. And I remember when I was doing the BBC one, being sent to see a dialect coach and being really kind of taken aback by going, but hang on, I'm English, why am I going seeing a dialect coach? But it was really helpful because it kind of irons out every kind of little modern nuance or London thing that you had. So I did go back and see the same exact one. So it was a real reunion of all sorts, actually, even with Joan Washington, the dialect coach.
Whit, one of the things I've loved about all of your films dating back to Metropolitan is how sly they are about social interactions, about group dynamics, and especially about sort of the complex and coded friendships between women. What appeals to you as a filmmaker about that?
Well, I do enjoy writing female characters more than male characters. I find the male role in romance is sort of direct and kind of boring. You try and you're rejected, or you try and you're not rejected. Well, women seem to very often control their destinies in a much more interesting and subtle way. And that is certainly true of Lady Susan Vernon.
Yeah. The first time you guys worked together, of course, was The Last Days of Disco. And Kate, I would like to ask you how the relationship with Whit changed this much. Did he change as a filmmaker? Did you notice differences between Last Days of Disco and Love and Friendship?
I think I was expecting to notice a lot more differences about all of us, actually, given that there had been about 200 years between movies and we'd all lived in different parts of the world and done loads of different things. And I was very much a fish out of water in Last Days of Disco. I'd not really spent any time in America at all. I'd never done an American accent in a movie even. And, it was about a very specific set of specific people that Whit was kind of the world expert on. And so I kind of really, felt like a novice, and so I sort of followed Whit around, listening to how he talked, and followed Chloe around, listening to how she talked, and trying to kind of understand how I fit into that universe. So that was different this time because I sort of feel a bit more familiar with Jane Austen and British things. But one of the things that's wonderful about working with Whit is that he's so unbelievably intelligent and cultured and brilliant. So that was the same. I mean, that was a huge treat and always is. And I still say that you're obsessed with background, and you say you're not, but you are.
No, it's true, because when you're in the editing room, I think it's sort of insulting or preoccupying for the principal actors who are really carrying the scene and doing everything. But actually, when you're in the editing room, if someone's doing something wrong in the background, it really wrecks everything. And so if you get a bad extra or a bad day player, it just is killing the scene. And so we're completely happy with what the Kate Beckinsales are doing and everyone's doing, and then we're just worried about things that are going to distract people from their performance. And what I'd say about working before is I think that this might have been a happier experience for the cast and crew, because this was sort of an objective world we all sort of knew about. And I think some of the crew was really expert about period things and bringing a lot of their knowledge and experience to it. Well, it was kind of hard for people to work on my first 3 films because I was trying to recreate things that I had been through, but they hadn't been through. So the costume designer had to sort of figure out, like, my group back 15 years, what were they dressed like, and that was very hard. So I think this is an easier shoot and more fun that way.
That's very interesting, because I was going to say this is your first movie with coachmen and mansions, and what sort of unexpected challenges did you have with this one? But if you say it was kind of easier, it's kind of interesting that something of a bigger scale would be easier, right?
Well, it's subjective, and the people we were working with had a lot of expertise in doing this, and so I could rely on them in a wonderful way, where before, it's really tiresome from people. Like, the production art would be very good in the other films, but I'd have to explain to them, like, how it would be and all that. I remember a production designer for Metropolitan who thought that Audrey Rouget would have leather-bound editions of Jane Austen. And I said, no, she just had beaten-up paperbacks like everyone else, Right. And so there's a lot of that. She quit right after that conversation.
Kate, how about working again with Chloe Sevigny, who's terrific in Love and Friendship as well? Did you guys kind of get into a good groove again right away, just as you did at Last Days of Disco?
It was a relief to me to not have to be as mean to her in this as I was in Last Days of Disco. And I very much feel that the love and friendship in the title of the movie is very much about our relationship in the movie, and I think it's really the sort of important kind of heart of the movie, and where my character feels most herself, and it is completely the most honest, actually. So it was lovely having that history with Chloe. She had much more been kind of in the capacity of my Virgil in New York. You know, as I said, I kind of followed her around like a puppy a bit last time. So this time, not so much. But we did, you know, we crammed it ourselves into some carriages together, and it was just like old times, yeah.
Is that the first Virgil reference in AOL Build, do you think? There's the first time?
It might be. I think this might be. I think we just may have just made some history here.
Do I win a prize?
I think we should do
yes.
some.
Good.
I think you should do more episodes on Virgil to bring us all up to speed.
That's right.
But I would say one thing. I was really glad that there was not all the sort of nightlife palsing around on this shoot, because we had a really long shoot, a 2-long shoot on Disco, which was sort of partly my fault. So Kate was sort of trapped in New York like week after week. And there's one point towards the end of the shoot when our international publicists invited them both to some sort of film event or premiere, and it's really a cool event, and they both wanted to go. And I just wanted to work everyone like a slave driver all the time. And they really wanted to go, and I thought we'd shoot, but I got really sick that day. I don't think they poisoned me, but I got sort of the flu or something, and I was feverish. I said, okay, go to the premiere, go to your premiere. And they came back, and we finished the film.
Did we go? I don't have
You
any
did,
memory
yes,
of this
it's a very
at all.
good thing. Yeah, I'll tell you all about it.
It must have been a very good night, because I don't
tell you all
remember.
about it. Is Ewan McGregor was there. It was that one on the beach in Southeast Asia, that film, I think.
Oh.
It was a party for that.
Right.
So it was a party for that.
Wow. So you have no memory of it.
Kate, you've done so many different kinds of films, so many different genres, but I read a quote that in the 90s you were a little bit worried about doing too many period films.
Yeah.
You said, well, people would say, oh, she smells like crumpets. She smells too much like crumpets. And what I love is that this year you have the latest Underworld film, so it seems like the smell of leather and the smell of crumpets kind of go well together for you,
Some
right?
people like the combo. Yeah. I don't know. I think it was much more like I'd done so many period films, and I when I was going in on meetings, people would say, well, she's very British and sort of fragile and dainty. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to do something that sort of, changes that. And then the thing I did that changed it kind of super hard. Yeah. And that people forgot I could do this, I think.
What did you want to avoid in terms of making a period film with Love and Friendship? Was there anything that you specifically said, you know what, we're not going to do this, we want to go this way with it?
Well, there are tons of things I wanted to avoid doing a period film. And one of the things I really liked was our film was the surprise film at the Glasgow Film Festival. And I'd done surprise film before. Damsels in Distress was a surprise film at the London Film Festival, and it was like the Civil War. Like half the audience hated it, and half liked it, but the haters went on social media for the next 3 years. And so that was brutal. And so I was reluctant to do another surprise film screening. But the one at Glasgow, the reaction was that a lot of the people said, their hearts sank when they saw it as a period film. Their hearts sank when they saw it as Jane Austen. They don't like that kind of film. They don't like that kind of film, but they really enjoyed this film. They enjoyed it as a comedy. So I think this is sort of a guy-friendly Jane Austen movie. Like Jane Austen herself, the novels, I think a lot of guys like them, but when they're adapted, they often become sort of chick flicks. And I think in our industry, in the film industry, there's huge pressure to make everything into genre. So if you have something that's really interesting from different angles, it's presented to the public or even done as something directed just to women or just to men or just to young guys or something like that. And so I think we just wanted to go straight ahead with the material, doing the best job we could without falling into those sort of marketing pitfalls. And so it ends up very different, I think, from the other films. This is the comic Jane Austen. It's a bit like Oscar Wilde adaptation or something like that. If people like Evelyn Waugh or this sort of sketch comedy of Ricky Gervais or Monty Python, they tend to like our film because they're really good comic actors who are around Kate and Chloe doing their funny thing. And so it was good to open up the material that way.
Everyone in this cast is absolutely terrific. One of the things I love about your film, and this is a question for both of you, is that all your films, is that the way people will listen, they will sometimes listen and only sort of half answer or answer in a way that they're not giving too much away emotionally. They're emotionally guarded. There's a moment in Last Days of Disco where somebody is giving a confession and sort of offhandedly says, and I was dancing badly, and Chloe says, oh, it wasn't that badly. And there's sort of those moments in Love and Friendship, too, where the characters will answer a question sort of evasively. But what's beautiful about it is it's about the art of dialogue. And in so many ways, I feel like the art of dialogue is a dying art in film. Do you think about that?
Well, dialogue can be very tedious in film, and it's really important that there's active story going along with dialogue. So either you can have someone, like in Metropolitan, telling a 5-page story, and it's interesting because it's an interesting story and you get all the characters' reactions and all that, or there's a story happening in the conversation somehow. And one of, I think, the strange and unusual and sort of charming things about what Kate and Chloe are doing in Love and Friendship is that they're plotting all the time what they're going to do. We see them doing what they say they're plotted, and then they're exulting gleefully that their plots were successful. Right. And so you see events looking into the future and looking into the past.
Kate, what was one of the keys to Lady Susan for you? What did you look at in the script and say, that's something that line right there, that says a lot about her?
There's quite a few. I mean, that was what was so lovely as well about having the novel, because because it's all letters, and it's letters, between her and Alicia and her and all these sorts of other people. I did quite like facts are horrid things. I thought that was quite telling. It's true. Yeah.
That's my favorite line too.
Is it?
Because I really like the thing of admitting something that's against your own interest, but then just criticizing the facts. So facts are hard things. Yeah. We're not saying they're not facts.
Yeah, no, right, that's right. The line that I love is when she says, well, being friends with Alicia, that says a lot about me. There's sort of a sense of, it's not really friendship for friendship's sake. In some ways, it's friendship for how it will reflect on me and how it is in the greater social stratosphere, right?
Yeah.
I think the other aspect of the film that I think that really is beautifully evoked is the sense that status for women, especially at the time, was a daily struggle, was something that they had to almost look at as, how am I going to get from sunup to sundown and advance my standing in some ways, or get to a different place in my life. And Lady Susan kind of, that's her whole goal in some ways, is to get from one point in life to another. Did you look at that as one of the focuses of the story, of the script?
No.
No.
I do.
We're just going for laughs. We don't care how they get there.
No. Well, I think it really sort of beautifully evokes that too, and how friendship and marriage is sort of one of these social contracts that women had to deal with at a different time. Do you see parallels between like in Damsels in Distress, the characters in that one, Whit, and the characters in Love and Friendship?
Well, I see a pattern, and it's really interesting how people accept or don't accept heroes and heroines in films. So I thought everyone would love Violet Wister, played by Greta Gerwig, in Damsels in Distress. She's really trying to be virtuous, and she's trying to help people. And a lot of people just hate the character, which I don't quite understand. Well, here we have Lady Susan Vernon plotting to get ahead and to grab a fortune wherever she might. And she's sort of lovable in her operations, and we're getting a much more positive reaction, which I like positive reactions. And so that's very nice.
We're going to ask a couple of questions here from the audience now, but I just wanted to wrap up this portion by just saying, if there was a favorite moment or a favorite scene that you guys shot, what would that be?
Well, I really enjoyed the dancing scene, but I'm not sure if Kate enjoyed it as much.
I did enjoy it. I just wasn't very well prepared for it. I'd not managed, because I was always working, I'd not managed to go to the dance rehearsals that other people were going to. So you're very nice, but I ruined it. I mean, I nearly ruined that dance. Also just from laughing. It was a very funny day, seeing people galumphing about like that.
I just also want to just throw back to a second, Whit, you said that fans of Monty Python like the film a lot. There's moments when Tom Bennett has his verbal sort of stumblings are really terrific and charming. As you guys were working on that, was there ever a moment where you said, a little bit more of this, a little bit less? How did you guys work that out?
What I realized in watching the film this past week several times is that he's able to make "How are you?" and "Thank you very much, I'm fine" funny lines. Yeah. So he can. So some of the material in some of these scenes is really rather weak. As a writer, I can see this is a very weak comic gruel, and he just makes it really funny. I mean, Churchill, Hill. That's maybe not funny.
Was that all? Was some of that in the novelization that you did, the re-novel, as we sort of called it, of the book as you kind of were putting it through? Was that all original for the script?
Well, that was wonderful for me because they were furious with me at Little Brown, because every deadline I'd go through, I hadn't started. And then when we finished the editing, I started the novel, and I had this character Tom Bennett plays, Sir James Martin, and so this is his nephew, Rufus Martin Colonna, who loves his Aunt Susan and loves Sir James. And so he's such a fool. So I got to have a fool narrator to sort of keep the comedy going throughout that novelization.
And that's a tricky thing to pull off on the page, and I'm sure on the script as well. You have to find the right actors, you have to find the right tone for that, right?
It was terrifying, but it made me realize how much I was relying on the charm of the actors. Because a lot of the scenes I loved in the movie and were really funny and charming, in the book they become very dull because it's just the words and the sentences.
Kate, is it fun to get dressed up in all of these costumes? I would imagine that waking up every day and knowing that you have it, both terrifying a little bit and also must be so fun to kind of get into, right?
The idea of it is very fun. Yeah. It was quite exciting before I got to Ireland. And then, because it was a very small budget, I wasn't expecting to have, Chloe and I think all of our costumes were made from scratch. And, I was thinking we were going to be borrowing things from other movies and stuff, and it really wasn't. So that was really exciting when you'd come into your trailer, and because our characters change clothes so much, you'd have a sort of Christmas present every other day of this complete crazy outfit. But it's not, it's not a relaxing thing to wear. And
How many levels were there? There were like 5 levels of clothes.
Quite a lot of levels. Also, on top of which, it was really cold in Dublin, so we all had thermal underwear on underneath. So that was the first level. And then there's the corset, the thing you put under the corset, then the corset, then the thing you put over the corset, then the petticoat, another petticoat, and the skirt, and the tunic, and the coat, the fur, the hat, the choker, the gloves. By that point, you can barely move, and you've got to just try and get out of your trailer, and down 3 steps is quite a big thing, to try and do. But luckily there wasn't much jumping off buildings or anything.
That's why fainting couches were so popular, because
absolutely.
You're all right.
Especially if you're going to talk as much as Lady Susan does. You would get a bit dizzy at the end of the 5th or 6th take. Yeah.
Whit, you sometimes take a couple of years between projects. Is this one? Are you going to jump right into another one? Are you going to take a little bit of time, because this was obviously a bigger lift than maybe some of the other ones?
I'm supposed to write more scripts for a TV series I was doing with Amazon called The Cosmopolitans. So The Cosmopolitans had one pilot that came out in 2014, and we're supposed to at least have the scripts for 6 more, and then they'll decide whether they want to film it.
Excellent. Looking forward to that. We're going to take a couple of questions now. Looking forward to what these folks have to say.
Hi. How's it going?
Very well, thanks.
My question is for both of you. While directing the movie and acting in it, was there anything that surprised you at all from the roles?
Do you want to go first? Or you go. Well, it really surprised me we finished a day early. That was a big surprise. Let me see, surprises. You had a lot of surprises, didn't you?
Did I?
I don't know.
I'm trying to think of ones I can say.
In a well-ordered production, you try not to have surprises. It's a very good question, but we had a really good assistant director, and one of the good things an assistant director does is there are very few surprises.
What about people like Stephen Fry? Did they kind of surprise you in some ways? Because Stephen Fry is so terrific.
We only had him for one day. I wasn't there.
Well, we had Stephen Fry there for one day, and we galvanized to get all that done because there's a lot to do, and he was only available for one day. It was between the BAFTAs ceremony that he presided over and his long-planned vacation. And so we called it, it was Friday the 13th last year, we called it Stephen Friday, and everything was geared towards getting all that done correctly. I would say, as far as surprise, what surprised me is do not go along with just sort of glib chit-chat about production and artistic things. So the cinematographer was saying, how great Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon was, filming only by candlelight, and how we would do that. We'd film scenes just by candlelight, and how wonderful that would be. And then I saw what...
My face by candlelight and screamed. That happened. Finishing the sentence in my mind.
Exactly. What candlelight makes people look like. Oh my gosh, it was just horrifying. So never let the cinematographer talk you into candlelight.
I guess Halloween parties and Barry Lyndon are probably the only times that you could really candlelight looks good, right? So next one.
Hey guys, a fan of both of your works. So since the last movie that you guys worked on, there was a really big gap between then and...
Well, Kate was working a lot, and I was not working. It was one of those things, it was like the picture of Dorian Gray. I was the portrait in the closet not working, and she was the thing out there working all the time.
I mean, we're a real team, we
yes.
take it seriously.
I had not to work. Now if I get jobs, I hope that doesn't mean Kate has a hiatus. What's your question?
Well, I was actually gonna ask about that, but was it hard keeping a straight face for most of the scenes that you guys had to do?
I struggled a bit with Tom Bennett. I really did. You definitely got giggly when he came in as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is
I
that
try not to. I'm really pretty serious and scared.
Scary.
Scared and scary. One of the oddest things we had was trying to come up with some little bit of dialogue in a scene towards the end of the movie, and it's referring to an earlier scene where this very foolish man doesn't know what peas are. And so the Reginald de Courcy at the end wants to sort of insult him, and he calls, and so I said to Xavier, who plays it, could you say pea brain or peas brain? And it was one of those really stupid, arrogant things the director does when you're rolling and the director starts shouting stuff from the other room. It's like, say pea brain or peas brain. And then he said, well, which? And then I said, no, say pea brain or peas brain. He said, well, which? So it's one of those things like, who's on first? It just kept going. Finally, I walked out, and we have it on film. And so finally he said just what we needed, which is pea brain or peas brain. And then he just broke into laughter like that. But we were able to sort of cut it at just that frame. So, I mean, I looked really, I hate seeing myself walk on the set saying stupid things. Because normally I say stupid things, but it's not on film. So I can forget about it and hope that other people do. But there's one where I think I wanted to say, you're in the room with Mrs. Cross, and I wanted to say something to you. So I just opened the door, and it was in the middle of the scene.
He just appeared in the scene, yeah.
But the pea brain or peas brain thing, I have to say, is sort of the hallmark of a Whit Stillman screenplay, because it's little moments like that that are just so sterling and just sort of come out to you and sing. It's just really, they ring in the ear. They're beautiful.
We had a historical consultant for accuracy in the dialogue, and he kept saying, well, people didn't use pea brain as an insult in the 1790s. And I said, well, it doesn't matter. It's our film. We've a comedy about this, and also it's plausible. I mean, they could have said that.
Sure, right. Yes, it's not written down anywhere.
He could be the first person to have ever said it.
That's right.
Yes,
that's where it started.
He initiated the pea brain phrase.
That's right. Take the next question.
Hi, I'm wondering if you could talk about the process of adapting the source material.
Well, the problem with adapting the source material, and actually Kate at the last phase helped me on it, was taking the letters and making them dialogue scenes. So in an epistolary novel, everyone has to be far enough apart to have it make sense writing letters to each other. And occasionally you can, like, I suppose, leave a note for someone in their room, but generally you have to be some ways away. And in our kind of film, people have to be close together so they can talk to each other. And so that led to inventing characters so the conversations could continue. So some of the correspondence between the Chloe character and the Kate character became conversations between you and your sycophantic friend, Mrs. Cross.
Yeah. Element of friendship.
Who packs and unpacks. I love that.
And so there's sort of a lot of geographical working things out. And it's a little like shuffling a deck of cards, where you have to take this letter and make it dialogue back and forth. But thank you for that question. And then Kate came in and sort of questioned a lot of the things, like, should we add something or should we subtract something? And it's really good to question all that and the geography of where the characters go before we're shooting, you know, because I think it saved us a couple of scenes that we took out that weren't that necessary.
That's right, yeah, we did.
And that helps a lot.
And we finished a day early, there we are.
Finished a day early.
Yeah. And in so many dialogue scenes, of course, like a walk and talk, as they call them now, is so crucial, because you have to be able to, rather than just a static shot of two people standing and talking, you want to be able to mix it up a little bit, right?
Yes.
Take the next question.
We're going to take our final question from an online viewer. So Lacey would like to know, what was it like to shoot on location in Ireland?
I'd never been to Dublin ever before, and it was beautiful and amazing. And it was wonderful because obviously it was period appropriate, and you know, a great deal of the crew were very experienced in period movies and were like experts in their field, and all that was great. It was quite interesting weather to be having a lot of strolling around gardens. That was the thing that was kind of surprising. As I said, we did have the long johns and thermals on, but also it was really changeable. It would go from sort of a semi-tornado to snowing to hailing to, you know, in about 20 minutes. And you know, I had quite a difficult hat for that sort of circumstances. quite often chasing after it. You know, will it hold? Will it hold? Oh, it's gone again. You know, there's a bit of that going on.
I think the job of somebody who goes and gets Kate Beckinsale's hat is still a good job to have on a
That's
film
a
set,
real
right?
job.
Yeah.
That's a real job that people have. And the other thing that was nice was that the crew was so wonderful. Everybody was so great, and that every single person that I came into contact with had a story about Bono, like a personal story about Bono, who clearly has been very busy, you know, going and making breakfast for people. And at that time that Bono made me a cup of tea, I'm like, what? How's he got anything done? He seems to have managed to hit everybody in Dublin.
And we recorded the music in his sound studios.
Oh, you did?
Windmill Lane Studios, yes.
So all roads lead back to Bono, apparently.
Absolutely true.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been so fun. Whit Stillman, Kate Beckinsale. The movie is Love and Friendship. It opens this Friday. Thanks very much.